What if I told you that the person you save might actually be saving you at the exact same moment, and you won't realize it until it's almost too late? That's exactly what happened to Dr. Emma Richardson on an ordinary Thursday morning that turned out to be anything but ordinary. And by the end of this story, you'll understand why sometimes the healer needs healing just as much as the patient needs saving. Emma was a cardiac surgeon at Mass General Hospital in Boston, one of the youngest and most talented in her department. At 38 years old, she'd already performed over 2,000 heart surgeries and had a success rate that made her a legend in medical circles. Patients requested her specifically. Other hospitals tried to recruit her constantly, and medical students fought for the chance to observe her in the OR. From the outside, Emma's life looked perfect. But here's what nobody knew. Emma was dying inside. Not physically, at least not yet, but emotionally and mentally she was barely holding on. 3 years ago, Emma's 8-year-old daughter Lily had died suddenly from an undiagnosed heart defect, an arrhythmia that had stopped her heart while she slept. Emma had been sleeping in the next room, had years of medical training, had dedicated her entire career to fixing hearts, and she hadn't been able to save her own child. The guilt was suffocating. Emma threw herself into work with an intensity that worried her colleagues. She took every surgery, worked 80-hour weeks, volunteered for the most complicated cases that other surgeons wouldn't touch. She stopped sleeping, stopped eating properly, stopped talking to her husband, who eventually couldn't take watching her self-destruct and filed for divorce. Emma didn't fight it. She didn't fight anything anymore except death itself in the operating room, and even that was starting to feel like a losing battle. On this particular Thursday morning, Emma had been awake for 36 hours straight. She'd performed 3 surgeries back-to-back, had 2 more scheduled for the afternoon, and was running on nothing but coffee and the kind of determination that comes from trying to outrun your own thoughts. Her hands were steady, her focus was sharp, but inside she was screaming. She'd been screaming for 3 years, and nobody could hear it because she'd gotten so good at hiding behind her professional mask. At 11:15 a.m., a new patient was rushed into the ER with a massive heart attack. Female, 42 years old, collapsing vital signs, needed immediate surgery or she wouldn't make it another hour. The ER attending paged Emma because this was exactly the kind of critical case where Emma's skills made the difference between life and death. Emma scrubbed in, reviewed the scans, and prepared to do what she did best. But when she walked into the OR and finally looked at the patient's face properly for the first time, Emma felt something shift inside her chest. The woman on the table looked eerily like Lily would have looked if she'd grown up. Same delicate features, same spray of freckles across her nose, same reddish-brown hair. It was impossible. Lily was gone. But the resemblance was so striking that Emma had to grip the operating table to steady herself. Her surgical team noticed her hesitation and asked if she was okay, and Emma forced herself to nod and focus. This woman needed her, and Emma couldn't afford to fall apart now. The surgery was one of the most complicated Emma had ever performed. The patient's heart had sustained massive damage. There were multiple blockages, and her heart kept stopping on the table. 3 times Emma had to shock her back. 3 times Emma refused to give up, and somewhere during those desperate hours, something inside Emma broke open. She found herself talking to the patient even though she was unconscious, saying things Emma had never said in an OR before. She said, "Please don't leave," said, "Your family needs you," said, "I can't lose another one," said, "Please let me save you this time." Emma's hands moved with precision, born from years of training, but her heart was engaged in a way it hadn't been since Lily died. She wasn't just performing a surgery anymore. She was fighting for something deeper, something personal, something that felt like maybe if she could save this stranger who looked like her daughter could have looked, maybe she could forgive herself for not saving Lily. After 7 hours of surgery, the patient's heart started beating strong and steady on its own. Emma had done it. She'd saved her. But as Emma stepped out of the OR, pulled off her mask and felt the adrenaline drain away, she collapsed against the wall and started sobbing. Not quiet professional tears, but huge, gasping sobs that came from somewhere so deep she didn't know she still had feelings that intense. Her entire surgical team stood there in shock because they'd never seen Dr. Richardson cry, had never seen her show any emotion beyond calm competence. Emma's colleague, Dr. Stevens, gently guided her to an empty room and asked what was wrong, and for the first time in 3 years, Emma told the truth. She told him about Lily, about the guilt, about the fact that she'd been using surgery as a way to punish herself and prove she was worth something even though she'd failed at the one surgery that mattered most. She told him she was exhausted, broken, barely functional, and that she'd been planning to work herself to death because she didn't know how else to cope with being alive when her daughter wasn't. Dr. Stevens listened quietly and then said something that changed everything. He said, "Emma, you just spent 7 hours fighting like hell to save a stranger's life. You wouldn't give up on her even when the odds were impossible. Don't you think Lily would want you to fight that hard for yourself?" Those words hit Emma like a defibrillator shock to her own heart. She'd spent 3 years trying to save everyone else while actively destroying herself, and she suddenly realized how backwards that was. Lily wouldn't want this. Lily would want her mum to live, to heal, to find joy again, to honor her memory by choosing life instead of this slow suicide by overwork. Emma took a medical leave that afternoon, the first time she'd taken any time off in 3 years. She started therapy, real intensive therapy, and began the hard work of processing grief instead of running from it. She reached out to her ex-husband, and they started talking again, not about reconciliation, but about healing together as two people who'd both lost their child. And she made a point to check on her patient every single day. The woman's name was Sarah Mitchell, and when she woke up 3 days after surgery, Emma was there. Sarah was confused about why the famous Dr. Richardson was personally monitoring her recovery, and Emma found herself telling the truth. She told Sarah about Lily, about the resemblance that had shaken her, about how saving Sarah's life had somehow cracked open the wall Emma had built around her own heart. Sarah started crying and reached for Emma's hand. She told Emma that she had a 9-year-old son at home who would have lost his mother if not for Emma's refusal to give up. She said Emma had given her son the gift of having his mom at his graduation, his wedding, the birth of his children, all the moments that Emma didn't get with Lily, and maybe that was the point. Maybe Emma couldn't save Lily, but she could save other people's daughters and sons, and give other families the future she'd lost. Over the following months, Emma and Sarah became friends. Sarah invited Emma to her son's birthday party, and watching this little boy hug his mother with pure joy, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. She felt grateful. Not grateful that Lily was gone, she would never be grateful for that, but grateful that she was still here, still able to make a difference, still able to turn her pain into purpose. Emma returned to work eventually, but she was different. She still took the complicated cases and still fought for every patient, but now she also fought for herself. She worked reasonable hours, she went to therapy, she took vacations, she slowly rebuilt a life that honored Lily's memory without being destroyed by her absence. And she realized that the morning she saved Sarah's life, Sarah had actually saved hers too, by reminding her that healing the healer is just as important as healing the patient. 6 months after the surgery, Sarah ran her first 5-kilometer race to raise money for heart disease research in Lily's name. Emma was there at the finish line, and when Sarah crossed it and they hugged, Emma whispered, "Thank you. Thank you for fighting to live. Thank you for reminding me that I should fight too. Thank you for being the patient who saved the doctor." If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that sometimes we need saving just as much as the people we're trying to save, then hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel, because I share real stories about real people that prove healing is a two-way street and that we're all walking each other home. Drop a comment and tell me about a time when helping someone else actually helped you, or about how you learned to save yourself. Your story matters and could be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Remember that you can't pour from an empty cup. That grief doesn't mean you stop living, and that sometimes the person you think you're saving is actually the person who saves you right back. Take care of yourself, honor your pain, and never forget that healing is possible even when it feels impossible.